Hi friends, my name is Bhavya Mangla. I'm IITF qualified auditor doing audit for the automotive sector for the last 20 years. I'm again back with a very interesting topic, and this topic is related to ISO 19011 2018 version. And in that, today I'm going to talk about the auditor competence and its valuation. And by the time this video will end, you will understand what exactly is the meaning of auditor competence, how we can develop the auditor competence, what are the different ways in which we can evaluate the auditors, and we can see that whether their performance is improving or not. Well, if you look around yourself, you'll find that when we talk about our children, we think about they should go to the best schools. But then what about the teachers? We don't think about the teachers. We just see that whether school is good, the reputation is good or not. But then school is good or bad only because of the teachers. So it's very important the teachers who are there, they should be competent. They should know their work. They should know how to deal with the children and get the best out of them. Something similar is in with respect to the competence and evaluation of the auditor. Because when we talk about the context of any organization, there can be three kind of audits. The first party audit, second party audit, and third party audit. In first party audit, it is someone internally who is doing the audit of another process. When we talk about second party audit, it is a person who is maybe the customer, or we are going to a supplier end and we are checking their performance. And the third is about external bodies or maybe the regulatory bodies. They are coming and they are doing the audit. But in all the three cases, whomsoever is the auditor, maybe the internal auditor or the external auditor, that person should be competent, and we have to regularly evaluate that whether the performance is still the same or not. When we talk about ISO 19011 2018 version, primarily there are four clauses under which entire thing is based. Clause number 4 is talking about the principles of auditing. Clause number 5 is talking about how we can make the audit program. Clause number 6 is talking about how we can conduct the audit. And today I'm talking about clause number 7, which is talking about competence and evaluation of the auditors. When we talk about competence and evaluation of auditors, primarily the intent is that whether the auditor is competent or not, and if it is competent, how that person is competent, and how we can evaluate that whether the person is competent and whether the person is regularly improving the skills and knowledge with respect to that or not. So primarily there are 5 key steps if you look into the standard of 19011, which is talking about this clause number 7. The first is talking about how we can identify the competence of the people. The second is talking about the criteria that we need to identify with respect to the evaluation. Then third one is talking about based on the criteria we need to identify which is the relevant criteria for monitoring the performance of the auditor. The fourth is talking about how we can actually conduct the monitoring and see the performance. And the fifth is talking about that how we can maintain that qualification and how we can improve on that. So let me first talk from the first with respect to the competence of the auditor. When we talk about competence of the auditors, primarily the idea is that whether that person knows the work that that person needs to be done and whether it is serving the purpose to the organization or not. So if you look into the standard, again, there are 4 sub-clauses which are talking in detail about that. The first one is talking about the knowledge and the skill with respect to that. The second one is talking about the personal behavior. The third one is talking about how we can develop an auditor into an auditor grade. And the fourth one is talking about how we can develop an auditor to become a team leader. So let me first start with the personal behavior first. Now that is the most important thing. Even though it is intangible, it's very difficult to quantify that, but I think that's what makes the real connect or disconnect between the auditor and auditing. And there are so many things that we can talk about that. It can be about the person should be ethical, the person should be open, transparent, person should understand, there should be good communication skills, but I would like to focus on 2 things. The first is the auditor should be culturally sensitive. When I say culturally sensitive, it means that, so if I talk about India, there are different religions, different caste, different colors of people living here. So whether the auditor understands that. There are more than 20 different languages which are spoken in English in India. So whether the person can understand that. And then when that same auditor is going out of India to different part of the world, whether that person is understanding that or not. Say for example, this symbol has a very good meaning in some countries, but in some countries it is considered to be offensive. So the auditor should be know about that, how to take care with respect to that. And then it's very important that auditor should have this capability of being fortitude. When I say fortitude, there are so many pressures and tensions coming from different parts, maybe internally or maybe from the organization side. So at that time, auditor should have that competence to remain calm and take the right decision in spite of any pressure that is coming on that. Then point number two. So here, the important thing is about knowledge and skill. So there are many things with respect to knowledge and skill, and it's very important for the auditor to have the desired knowledge and the skill so that the auditors can impart whatever is expected from them. To talk more about that, the intent is that the person should have the generic knowledge and skill with respect to that. When I talk about generic skill, the person should be aware about the 7 quality management principles. Then person should be aware about PDCA approach, plan, do, check, act. The auditor should also be aware about the process approach, and there are many other generic things about maybe the legal requirements that person should be aware about that. Then apart from that, it's very important that person should be aware about that particular discipline and sector specific knowledge. Now there are different standards. The mother of all standards is ISO 9001. Then there are specific standards with respect to environment, safety, food, automotive, medical device, information security. So whether that auditor is competent about that particular standard and about that particular sector where the audit has to be done, that's very important. And it's true all for the internal auditors as well as for the external auditors. Then it's also important that person should have the basic skills. When we talk about basic skill, it's maybe about the internal communication. It can be about how to conduct the audit, how to deal with the team, how to work with the team, and how to ensure that the audit report is being prepared on time. That's very, very important. Then apart from that, it's also important that in case there are different multiple audits that are being done, so at that time, the auditor should know how to understand and integrate the audit while doing the audit with different standards. That's very important. Then coming next with respect to competence, that whenever we are qualifying a person, there can be 2 stages, auditor grade and the lead auditor or the team leader stage. So when we talk about auditor grade, the intent is that the person should have basic knowledge and skill about that particular standard or that particular sector so that the person can deliver what is expected from that. And the last is about team leader or the lead auditor. So here the intent is that the person should have broad knowledge about how to deal with people, how to understand and engage with different peoples, and the person should get exposure with respect to the different team leaders, that how they are working so that that person can understand and know what exactly it is. Now coming to part number 2 with respect to the evaluation. So the first part with respect to that is that we have to define the criteria for the evaluation. So when we are defining the criteria for the evaluation, there can be subjectivity or there can be objectivity with respect to that. When we talk about subjectivity, it is about the qualitative skills. And when we talk about objectivity, we are talking about the quantitative skills. When we talk about the qualitative skills, again, as I said earlier, it's more with respect to the person's knowledge, understanding, behavior, and all those things that comes with respect to that. But when we talk about the qualitative skills, so here we are talking about the number of years of experience, we are talking about the qualification that person has done, the number of trainings that person has got, all those things are part of that. Then coming to point number 3. Now, we have to identify that out of so many things, what are the different criteria based on which we can qualify a person auditor, maybe for internal audit or maybe for external audit. And if you go deep into the standard, there are 6 different steps which are being defined. So it's not required that you have to follow all the 6. It can be a combination of 2, 3, 4, 5. You have to see what is the best fit for your particular organization. So these 6 steps, the first step is talking with respect to the review of the record. So here we are talking about that we need to go through the biodata of that person to see the experience, knowledge, and different certificates, and that can make a case that whether that person should be made an auditor or not. Then second part is with respect to the feedback. Now, whenever we are making someone an auditor, it's very important that person should be acceptable to majority of the people. So whatever complaints are coming, whatever feedback is coming from different forms, maybe there is some internal system of employee feedback satisfaction, or there can be some different ways so that we can know that whether we should go ahead with that person with respect to that or not. The third one is talking about the interview. Now, it's a very interesting process because sometimes we also want to understand about that particular subject. So, for example, a person who is from a medical device background, so maybe we want to understand that whether that auditor has got in-depth knowledge about that particular thing, or maybe a person is doing an auditor for a textile company, so whether that person has got some basic understanding of the textile industry or not. So all those things are being checked during that interview. Then the next is talking with respect to the observation. Now, we have a certain skill. Now, whether we can demonstrate that skill, whether we can do and use that particular skill or not. So there maybe an on-site audit is there, maybe some witness is being done to see that whether the person can deliver that or not. And then the next very interesting thing is talking about the testing. Sometimes there can be some mock tests, there may be some written tests, some psychometric tests which can be done to see the knowledge about that particular person. And the last and the most important thing is about the post-audit review. Now the idea is not only that person should just conduct the audit. What happens after that? Whether the person is able to make the report correctly, whether the person is able to write the non-conformities correctly, whether that auditor is able to complete the report and send it further for the review or not, that also is a part of that. So there are different criteria, and based on that, evaluation needs to be done. And the fourth, a very interesting step is that now we actually conduct based on those criteria, and then we see and we evaluate whether the auditor qualifies out of these 6 requirements or not. And if that's qualifying, then it's wonderful. If not, then we can give some training, or maybe we can do another evaluation. And the last and the fifth and the most important thing is now talking about how we can maintain and how we can upgrade that auditor from time to time. So here there are different things which can be applicable. Now times are changing, things are changing. Maybe 10 years back we were not talking anything about cybersecurity. Maybe a couple of years back we may be talking, but exactly we're not talking about diversity, equity and inclusion. But these days we are talking a lot about all those things. Artificial intelligence was there for quite some time, but now we are talking a lot about that. So whether the auditor is upgrading the skill about different things which is happening around the globe, so that the auditor can talk to the management, the auditor can give that input or doing the audit effectively when the person is doing the audit. So all those things are very, very important. So if I do a summary, I talked about the 5 key things to be a competent auditor and to evaluate that as per clause number 7. The first thing was with respect to the competencies, that we need to identify the competencies. The point number 2 was we have to identify the criteria with respect to the evaluation. The third one is talking about the defining that which criteria is suitable for which auditor for the qualification. The fourth one is talking about that we have to actually conduct the evaluation to see that whether the auditor fulfills to that requirement or not. And the fifth and the last is talking about how we can maintain and see that auditor is upgrading to the next level. So this is a brief about clause number 7 of ISO 19011 2018 version. My next video will be on circular economy. Regularly, I'm getting a lot of feedback from your side and they're helping me to understand your expectations. So please do continue that. In case you want to understand a little bit more about this particular video, you'll find a link below. If you click that, you'll find a blog there, and there you'll find a lot of more information with respect to this video. And in case you're liking these kind of videos, you can always share with your friends and colleagues, and you can subscribe to my YouTube channel and my website, bhavyamangla.com. Thank you.